Welcome to Coping Together, Mental Health Association of Central Florida's live web series dedicated to helping you develop coping strategies and wellness tools related to COVID-19, as well as talk about mental health. Coping Together was created in response to COVID-19's mandatory social distancing orders. This show seeks to learn and educate. We do not speak for any particular group. Overall, Coping Together serves as a platform through which we can demystify and unpack mental health concepts and hear from experts in the field. Please note that this show may discuss sensitive topics including but not limited to sexual assault, suicide, and various traumas. If you find yourself feeling upset or struggling during any episode, listen to your body and pause the input. We will post related resources. Remember, it's okay to get help.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Coping Together. I'm your host, Faith, with the Mental Health Association of Central Florida, here to talk to you about all things related to mental health and COVID-19 and how we're all going to get through this journey together. So with me today, I'm excited. I know you guys all got to meet her last month, and I'm excited to bring her back. This is our CEO, Marni Stahlman, with the Mental Health Association. Marni, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good, wonderful. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about the holidays. But this year's, it's quite different. And so the reason that obviously we all know it's different is COVID-19, whether it's you're nervous for yourself or someone you love, or you can't be with the people you love. There's already a lot that goes in with the holidays that's stressful. And so we're just kind of going to talk about that today, just to, maybe talk about some questions that people might be having. So I will start by asking, again, kind of the obvious question, what makes this year even more stressful in terms of the holidays than usual?
Well, obviously, I think the big thing there is we're not together. And holidays are times that are marked by sharing and joining and being together. And we as a species, as a community, that's our natural resting state, is to want to be joined. And so the loss and the anxiety about not being able to be in that natural state is, I think, what is propelling most everyone to feel like this is so different than anything that they have previously ever experienced. And I use the word loss because I do believe that there are elements about how to work through these times that are challenging and the feelings that we all are experiencing by also looking at some of the stages of grief and loss that sometimes are experienced by people who have experienced a death or a significant loss of someone they care about, and how to move successfully, spiritually and psychologically through those stages that are very well discussed within the community and very well known. And I think applying some of the methodologies and awarenesses about what those stages of grief are, I think will help people to come to a place where they can not feel like it's completely been fixed, so to speak, but that they can have a place of understanding about it.
I want to start by saying I really think it's great that you didn't just answer that question with the words COVID-19, because I think what you did was you reminded all of us that this is so much deeper than that. I mean, the reality is that we're not together. We may not be together because of this virus, because of the impacts it has had, but you've, I think, kind of instilled and reminded a lot of us that it's about being with the people that you love. And I think you also make a great point in talking about things that people may not be really comfortable to think or talk about, and that is the aspect of grief during the holidays. And so I appreciate you kind of, calling attention to that, because for those of us who don't know what that's like, it helps us have a better understanding of what this time period might be like. And that's part of what we do here on Coping Together is, how can we all cope together?
Exactly.
Wonderful. So my next question is, and it kind of goes along with that aspect of, again, not being together. A lot of people are struggling to decide what they want to do for the holidays, whether they are elderly or they're level of high risk, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable. And that's okay if they don't feel safe, if they don't want to be around a lot of people. The difference is, like you said, during the holidays, we tend to gather in large groups. So if someone is in the situation where they don't feel safe, they don't feel like they can do that, do you have any advice on how they can explain that they aren't coming to X event and hopefully not, have people getting upset with them?
Well, I do actually, and it comes back to the word resilience, right? So resilience is a practice, it's not a trait that we can grow and we can enrich ourselves with. And to come back to your first part of your question, when you're struggling with the decision that you've made, and that decision is to remain isolated from the group that you might be invited to be a part of, and that you're experiencing, some of that pressure from family or peers to mingle. Part of building that resilience muscle that I think exists in all of us that can be boosted is to own your decision and to own your sense of self, to say, it's okay, this is my choice. And that is one of the big factors, I think, in that resilience muscle build, that sometimes we are not the best at saying to those around us, these are my choices. They may not be your choices. You may not fully understand why they're my choices, and I can help to explain those, but they are mine. And that needs to be honored. And before you can ask someone to honor your choices, you have to do it. And you have to get to that place where you feel like the choice that you made is one that you can be invested in. If you feel ambivalence, if you feel like you're not quite confident that the choice that you've selected for yourself, then you can't expect someone else to be. And that's a hard place to get into. And quite frankly, that's a struggle we face whether we're in COVID-19 pandemic or we're just in everyday world, which is, how do I own my choices? And how do I express that ownership, not just to the people around me, but to myself?
That's a very strong and a very good point, I think, in that, like you said, if we want people to respect our wishes and respect what we want, we have to respect that in ourselves. It's okay to say no sometimes. I think that that's something that we feel like, especially around the holidays, it's hard. It's hard to say no. You want to be able to go to all the white elephant gift exchanges or see all the family members or all these things. And a lot of times we have to look at ourselves and look at what we can handle internally, whether, like you said, it's COVID or not. And it is okay to say no. It's okay to not want to do that. But like you said, you have to own that. You have to advocate for yourself.
That's correct. And there are ways that you can do that where your mind and your body are going to signal to you when it feels, then they both feel that you're at a good resting place. So it's important to monitor your physicality as well as your psychology in terms of making sure that that resilience muscle is really getting a good workout and exercise so that it can be there to support you and that it can be something that you can rely upon. And that means managing your health with good nutrition, good food, good hydration, good sleep, good exercise, taking breaks, walking around. But then the other part of that from the psychological is practicing good self-compassion. We are always not very adept at granting ourselves the level of compassion that we naturally seem to want to extend to everyone else around us. We are sometimes much more hard on ourselves and our choices, and the level of forgiveness that we may not be able to get to for ourselves than we are to extending that to other people that we care about, or people that we may not even know, but we have empathy for. And that goes again back to creating that place for yourself of compassion on your choice to isolate or distance in the traditional sense, right? And that means that physicality connection. But there are certainly other ways that we can be connected to the people that we care about, that we want to. And I think it's essential. When I say isolate, I don't mean lock yourself up. I mean, don't put yourself in a position where your safety protocols can be compromised. There was just an interesting feature, I think it was yesterday, where a family of 14 in New Jersey had taken, and they were some of them were healthcare providers in the family, had practiced really good safety procedures and protocols during this whole pandemic since March. And last month they thought, well, you know what? It's a birthday, it's a milestone, it's a patriarch in the family. Well, we're just going to gather for some cake. And every one of them, all 14, got COVID because one person in the group had given an elderly friend a ride in the car just days before, and that individual had attested that they were negative when in fact they were positive. And I think that's one of the features that's so difficult right now, is that we don't know for sure. You could believe that you are negative and have practiced great protocols to safeguard your own safety and those around you, but you don't know who you're coming into contact, and they may not know. And so in this instance, the nurse that was being interviewed was on oxygen. She was in the hospital, and all 14 of her family members had gotten COVID, and one of the family members had passed away as a result. So I think it's important for a level of compassion and forgiveness and awareness to all be mixed into this equation. But there are so many innovative ways now that have been discovered. Exactly. And you can also, I think, invest in the idea that there's hope. A year from now, you can have a huge celebration being back together. And everyone who's here today that could be at risk for not being here as a result of COVID can have some assurances that they will be.
I think that's a really great way to look at it, definitely, and a good perspective, a good way to even maybe help yourself feel a little bit better about your decision, because you want to be able to be there for the future events. And by being safe, you're highly increasing the chance of that. So that's actually a really great segue into my next question, which is that if you are the person who you have a loved one who can't make it to the festivity, who can't, maybe you all are deciding to get together and be safe, but you have a family member who's not, and they don't feel comfortable, what can you do to show them that it's okay? Like, how do you express it's okay that you're not going to be here and that you're going to miss them?
The first way is to express that verbally, right? And to show your support. But I'll use an example that I just experienced myself this week. I'm a part of a women's group here in Central Florida, Florida Executive Women. And it's the 40th anniversary of this organization that has been working and doing amazing things to support the community through scholarship work and philanthropy work for over 40 years. And obviously the plans for the anniversary were heavily impacted by COVID-19. And so what happened was boxed lunches and care packages were created. There were several drop zones, pickup zones that were designated around the community. and you drove up and in a safe environment had that those items passed to you through the car. And then an hour later, you gathered on a virtual Zoom, which I think has become our adjective now. Obviously, there's many platforms. We're Zooming, but I think that's
a verb.
It's becoming our new verb, but obviously there's lots of platforms.
Absolutely.
And we all, in our bag, had a small bottle of cider and a plastic glass, and we raised a toast to each other and drank in unison for this toast. We had fellowship with each other where we shared, there was a video of the experience. There were shared stories of the experiences over the 40 years of women that have been participants in this organization. And for 45 minutes, we were together. Now, I wasn't sitting next to one of those individuals, but I was. And we were together and we were able to express ourselves, and we were linked and we were connected. And so I think there are ways like that that families can do. You know, I have a family member that owns a lawn sign greeting business. I don't know if you've seen them, where you can put big signs in your yard that say happy birthday. You know, you can send a sign greeting to your family member, but not tell them, and have it be a surprise when they come out to their front yard or to their condo or apartment and have something delivered. You can have meals sent to them that you can jointly share. You can make something and share it with them and send it to them as a surprise. You know, I'm old enough to remember that some of the best gifts that I ever received weren't bought on Amazon. They were made.
I remember that time too, I promise.
Right. So making something that's unique, that marks this as a milestone event for your family, that can be a keepsake for a parent or a sibling or, you know, a good friend, I think is very meaningful. And you can maybe pull a photograph of the time you were all together, frame it and write a story about the memory, and then have that as the touchstone and the keepsake. So I think there's a number of different ways. And I think the most important is that we not wallow in the, oh, woe is us, because we certainly can. And we can go down that path and it can be dark.
I was going to say it's a dark path.
It is a dark path. And I'm fearful we have many people that are on that path, are already there, and we need to help them.
Absolutely. And that actually leads into my next question. You're really good. So a lot of people are going through a really hard time right now, and a lot of people, you know, especially those who maybe can't be there for the holidays, whether they're in a nursing home or maybe they're in the hospital, or maybe they work at the hospital, or they're a first responder. All these people in all these situations, they're going through a lot right now, as well as all of us, but especially in regards to these individuals. Do you have any insight as to how people can show these individuals that we care about them and appreciate them during this time?
Sure. Well, certainly if you're related or you have a relationship with any of those people, there are personalized ways that can be expressed. And we just kind of explored a few of them. Be creative, be imaginative, be innovative about how you want to express your care and connection. But as you said, there are many in our community that aren't connected, that they've been distanced because of the COVID-19 safety precautions, or because family simply is not here present. How do we, as a community, as individuals, express our care for them? Mental Health Association, since 1966, believe it or not, we recently found a photograph, and I'll share it with you, and you can maybe bring it into this podcast, of when it was first opened in the community. So we have a program here called Project Cheer, that has been going on since 1966. And the initiative is really to create care packages for individuals that are hospitalized in some of our psychiatric facilities across Central Florida. We have a goal here this year to reach 250 patients across many of the facility hospitals where they are. The care packages are really not very sophisticated, but they show you care. So there's small toiletry items, a really good pair of comfortable socks, maybe a deck of cards, or some small activity, a Sudoku book, maybe some hard candy, a candy cane, whatever. And we deliver those along with a Project Cheer card that, even from a stranger, we're trying to pay it forward. I had a really good friend yesterday post on her social media page that she was in the drive-through at Starbucks waiting to get her daily item. I'm not remembering what it was. And she got to the window after ordering, and the person in front of her had paid for it.
Wow.
And so she in turn paid for the person behind her. And she remarked on the social media, she wondered how long the chain would go.
I've seen things like that before, and they can go for quite a while. I think that's actually really beautiful.
It is, whether you're standing in your car at Starbucks or somewhere else, or you have a neighbor nearby that you might not have a strong or long bond with, but you know each other. Send them some Uber Eats. There are lots of ways I think that we can pay it forward. You can go to your local supermarket and for $10 get a small vase of flowers, or 3 packs for $12 at Publix of the cut flowers. Put them in a vase and leave them outside your neighbor's door. Or if you're working with a friend, send them to their house if they're working from home. To show that the world is still aware that they're there and that people care.
I actually really you've given me a lot of really great ideas for how I can reach out to some people that I care about. So thank you.
Now for Project Cheer for the Mental Health Association, if they're interested, if anyone listening is interested in participating, either by contributing money so that we can purchase the items that go in the gift bags, or actually getting the items themselves, we have an Amazon Smile wish list where these are posted, as well as a link on through our website, www.mhacf.org, and right there is Project Cheer. You can click on it and it can take you through the information steps that you need to if you want to be a contributor, or if you have the items, you can drop them off here at the office.
That's really wonderful. And I will be sure to include this information as well as the photo that Marni's referring to. What an amazing thing to have that first photo. So I will absolutely be including that in the description and or in the post following a couple hours after, so that you can all see it and have information of how you can also take part in Project Cheer, or in whatever way you can or want to. And so Marni, let me ask you, do you think we still have enough time for a couple questions?
Sure.
Okay. So I just have about 2 more questions for you, really. And I guess the main one is that it's no secret that when a lot of us are with our families, we have differing views. I mean, a lot of us are adults, or we're younger and we're really developing our own sense of who we are. And I think that happens a lot at holiday gatherings, and it's a little stressful because you don't really want to get into that. And so I guess my asking you is for advice on how to navigate those kind of environments and situations, so maybe you don't get into a controversial debate or argument with someone.
So this is something that I have some experience with, because I'm married to an individual that in many respects have different political views than my own. And during recent events, not related to COVID, but obviously we've all come through a pretty volatile election cycle locally and statewide and nationally. And we both were very passionate about different opinions we had and individuals we were supporting. What we agreed to do was be respectful of each other's boundaries, that there was, to some extent, a willingness to listen, obviously, and be available to at least hear a different opinion, but to also have kind of, if you, for lack of a better word, a safe word that we both would agree to, which was really stop. When it got to a point where we knew that it was going to envelop into a conflict that could potentially impact an otherwise really good relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's being mindful of that, but also, again, going back to being firm with what your convictions are, proud of what those are, but also saying to the person that you're with, respectfully, we're going to agree to disagree, and then we're going to move beyond that and find another area where we can have an exchange that's not as volatile. In some instances, obviously that might not be possible, whether you're in a work environment, a professional environment, or even in a familiar or personal environment where that person's just not going to relent, that they're going to continue. Then you have to make some decisions about whether you're going to remove yourself from that environment and say, respectfully, I'm getting to a point now where this is not something that I think I can help in a healthy way continue to participate in. And that goes back to what we started talking about at the start of our conversation, which is self-care and compassion, right? And owning those decisions that you make, being steadfast in them, and being resilient with that muscle again about why that's important to you, and whether you're going to stand that ground, so to speak, and defend that decision, or if you're willing to just say, you know, there's no amount of shouting and disagreeing that's going to sway that individual over to my point of view. So what really is at stake here, and what is it that we're trying to, or what do I need? Why am I invested in this? And is it enough for me to say, there's really not a good reason why I'm invested in this? I should probably give that up and go find something else.
I think that's a really great point, because you're not, you know, with that perspective, you're not invalidating yourself. You're not invalidating that other person. You are looking at it as, you know, what am I really, you know, getting out of this conflict? Neither one of you is maybe gonna just suddenly change your mind, and rather than have that continue and persist, you can remove yourself. You can even just say, you know, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and I'll find you again later, or something like that. Would that be okay? Even if it's just to kind of get out of that situation?
Yeah. I think too that we're oftentimes, when we're exchanging individuals that have a pretty drastic difference of opinion or point of view from our own, we don't do a good job of validating them, which is where the conflict comes from.
Yeah.
So you can still validate someone's beliefs without agreeing with them.
Yes, I think that's important.
And that's a learned skill. Right? It's really great. The best relationship that I could say to practice that with is with a parent, right? So we're naturally, and I'm thinking about my daughter who's 12 and myself, right? We agree on a lot of things, but she's at that individuating age where she wants to spread out and get her own thoughts, and we want to encourage that. Some of it are a little unusual at 12, as you can imagine, but, you know, validating inside really strong, safe relationships that you know are going to be lasting, and it is a good way to learn that skill about how to say, I can really appreciate that this is how you feel, this is what you believe, this is what you think, and that for is informing how you're going to act. I don't. So, but I can see why you do, and that doesn't make you any less or me any more, or vice versa. And let's just put that up on the shelf, and if it's worth coming back and investing in to have another conversation, create the parameters and the environment where that's safe, or let it go. You know, we've got a lot on our plates right now. Is it really that important to get invested over a particular person that you disagreed with on television or political view? How does that really relate to what's going on in your life in real time? I think is the important factor.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. You actually answered my last question, so that was perfect. Thank you again so much for being here, Marni. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. For all of you watching at home or at work or wherever you are, thank you so much for watching. You are the reason that we get to do this show. If you have any topics you would like to see us do, please reach out to us at the Mental Health Association. As I mentioned, we'll be posting a short little post about, you know, what you might have missed if you weren't able to watch the whole thing. And we'll also include our links for Project Cheer, our site. And if you feel in any sense like you or someone you know might need a little bit of help, it's okay to get help. And we encourage you and would love for you to reach out to us. So with that.
Really, Faith, and thank you. You're doing a wonderful job doing these information sessions for the community. And hopefully we've got people watching. And as you said, understanding that not just for themselves is it okay to get help, but it really is also for people that they care about if they need assistance in getting them connected as well. So this is just really terrific. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all to you again. And I will see you next time.
All right.